Hello viewers, my name is Chase Clover, and this is my final review from 2014, and I'm only going to be talking about, well, let me first do my intro. Hello viewers, my name is Chase Clover, and this is my review on the December 31st, 2014 New Year's Eve edition of USW Wednesday Night Intensity. And let me do my somewhat research first. And this was the intensity number 103. So this was the aftermath, I guess, of Aftershock 2014 that happened last Sunday. This is being recorded on Sunday. The Sunday, the week after Aftershock. And I'm only going to be getting to the spots that, well, I'm going to be getting to all the matches and only the scenes that were important to me. So there we go. That's pretty much what I'm going to be doing. Anyway, let's get into it. We start the show off with a promo, but it wasn't anything good. It was just the announcers talking, the commentators talking about the main event and the matches on the card. But we get into the first match, which is TJ Wilbur and Dwayne Porter defeating CED and ED, or CED, ED, and Dustin Raymond. After the match, Dustin Raymond tells Dwayne Porter that he will see him at No Forgiveness 2015. This is the 2014 review. He will see him at No Forgiveness 2015. That'll be the next pay-per-view coming up, and it'll be live on January 27th, if I am not mistaken. Let me go back and find out. Let me just research. January 25th, 2014. And that'll be the first pay-per-view of 2014, or 2015 for USW. And that's pretty much all we have there. We get into the second match, which is what I want to talk about just a little bit. And it is the debut of a new performer, also known as Washington. Washington defeats MC4. Afterwards, MC4 blindsides Washington after Washington starts speaking on the mic about why he's there, how he got there, and what he wants to accomplish in his time with USW. Washington is a new performer. He's the newest performer on the roster. The USW is trying to make up for the loss of performers that they've had in recent memory. And Washington is one of those performers that is supposed to be coming in, and they're looking forward now to releasing a few more superstars or performers, not superstars, performers, instead of gaining more, because they want to have less of a roster and therefore more opportunities for everybody else. But the debut of Washington comes on the New Year's Eve edition of Intensity, and he looked impressive. He had powerhouse momentum, but he also went into technical wrestling and is also somewhat of a powerhouse as well. He hit some clotheslines. He also hit some drop kicks. He hit some leverage pins. He put him in a half Nelson more than three times. And he just looked impressive. It's not something that you would normally imagine a new performer having, but he looks like he's able to be a champion soon enough, because I mean, yeah, he'll have to go through, he'll have to get his licks in, at points. He'll have to really find out what it's like to be a performer in USW. But in whatever case scenario it may be, Washington seems like he's got some talent, and I think USW can do a lot with him. So I'm glad Washington debuted. I'm glad that they finally debuted him. He's been being teased at the audience we've been being teased with his debut since I believe July, and it died down, but I mean there weren't very many to start, but it was every so often, and we finally get his debut. He beats MC4, a former, I think 4-time Extreme champion, and that's pretty much it. I expect him to be in a championship picture soon enough, but we'll have to see what he goes through first, and it looks like he's going to be going into a rivalry with MC4, so I'm looking forward to that coming up at No Forgiveness 2015, if that is to happen. Afterwards, we get the third match, which is Anarchy and Titanfall, or let me think. Ash won the Blue Belt title, and Titanfall won the Extreme title. So, it was Anarchy and the Extreme Champion Titanfall defeating Blue and Ash and Crimson Red. Afterwards was a promo, but it wasn't really anything good. It was just Titanfall talking on the mic. Fourth match on the card was Ezra and Kills with Benny Franklin in his corner, defeating Indigo Child with Chain Reaction in his corner. Looks like we may get into a Ezra and Kills Benny Franklin tag team title rematch or whatever, but against Indigo Child and Chain Reaction. So that should be interesting. That should be something to look forward to. And it was a good match. Ezra and Kills put on a good match, and that's pretty much all that happened with that. Indigo Child, he looked like Indigo Child. He was kind of impressive, kind of off his game, but that's pretty much what Indigo Child's career has been so far. Anyway, going to the fifth match, it was Simon Saint, James, and Lane defeating Philip Akron, Chris Ross, and BP Fierce. I guess they put down Chris Ross's tall man gimmick, I guess, or nickname. So, whatever. And then we get a scene or whatever, and the main event for next week is announced. Let me see what I wrote down. Alright. Next week's main event is a number 1 contenders battle royal match for the USW Championship. Derek Carter versus Cannon versus Prophecy versus Seth versus Lone Wolf versus Alex versus George Martin versus DHIG versus Greyhound. All of those matches seem like a good, good candidates. Let me just quickly go through why I think they should be number 1 contender, or what I think the pros and cons of them being number 1 contender is. No pros for Derek Carter. They've had enough matches before. The cons is that it's just going to get, no hype is going to be generated because nobody's going to be interested in it. Cannon versus, that was Derek Carter versus Zach Hardy. Cannon versus Harley, it is something that has been done before. So much interest was gained in it, and I'm looking forward to having that match come up again. Cannon versus Hardy, that should be a good match. That's the pro. The con, I don't really see a con except for there being that this rivalry may not be as great as the one they had during the end of 2013. But I'm glad they're getting back into Cannon versus Hardy. Maybe they'll add Mojget into the mix. We don't know. We'll find out. Prophecy, pros is that it would be a good match. It would be interesting. Could be very hopeful. It's just Prophecy is, the con is that Prophecy and Hardy, they're not really a good mix. But I think they could put on a good match. Seth, pros is that they could probably have a good match if they really put on a good match, or if they're capable of it. But the con is that I don't think Seth is ready to have a USW Championship match. I think they just put him in because it's kind of like a refresher or whatever. Lone Wolf, the pro is that these two mix very well. They can both put on great matches, and they're both in line for a USW title match. So they're both worthy of being USW champion. I don't see any cons with that. Alex, the pros with that would be, is Hardy versus Alex, so that means that there would be this kind of, tension, which when tension comes about, Alex doesn't really get the job done, and Alex hasn't gotten the job done against George Martin before, so what makes you think he's going to beat Hardy? That's the con. George Martin, there's no pros to that. The con is that it's not really good enough to happen. I'm hoping that Martin does not win, and also Alex will probably get involved, so Hardy would probably retain the championship. DHIG, the pros is that DHIG was able to put on a good match with Capital, and he's probably capable of doing that with Hardy. Except the cons would be he's not really ready for a USW title match, and also the fact that Hardy is not Capital. He wrestles differently. He's a different type of powerhouse. He can do high-flying maneuvers, and the damage of their finishes are way separate. And that's a con. And Greyhound, I see Greyhound more as a tag team performer, but the pros here is that it could be a very up-tempo, charismatic match between the two. I think they could have a good match, but the cons are, I don't think the USW title belongs on Greyhound's waist. I don't think he deserves a title match yet. And also, I think Greyhound is more of the mid-card performer right now until he shows that he is main event momentum, or until USW gives him the opportunity to be a main event performer. And that's pretty much the performers that are going to be in the match. My hope is that Cannon wins, because he's got the best, or Cannon or Lone Wolf. That's what I hope will win, and Alex would probably, lose via disqualification, and Hardy would retain the USW title as well. So because of George Martin. So I think I want it to be either Cannon or Lone Wolf, and my prediction is that Cannon will win, just because I feel like Cannon's been out of the singles championship run, out of the main event picture, so I think this can get him back in, and I think they had that ending to the Cannon Prophecy match for a reason, because I think Cannon is now going into the USW title picture. Anyway, we get into the main event of the match, or main event of the night, and it is Hardy, Seth, Lone Wolf, Capital, Prophecy, and Alex defeating Derek Carter, Yo-Yo Joe, Cannon, Gringo, George Martin, DHIG, and Greyhound. Did I read that right? No. I didn't read that right, my bad. Gringo is not in the match. Whoops. Sorry, my bad. I didn't mean to, yeah. Okay, he was not in the match. Alright. And there we go. I wrote Gringo for some reason, my bad. Hardy, Seth, Lone Wolf, Capital, Prophecy, and Alex defeated Derek Carter, Yo-Yo Joe, Cannon, George Martin, DHIG, and Greyhound. And then for the scene afterwards, everybody started fighting. And then after they stopped, everybody looked at Hardy, who was standing in the middle of the ring. And then the good guys got on his side as the bad guys turned away to the other side. So the bad guys turned towards Hardy and kind of walked towards him, whereas the good guys stood next to Hardy. And then a brawl broke out again, and the good guys stood over victorious. So Hardy. That was my review on the December 31st, 2014 edition of USW Wednesday Night Intensity. Remember to like, favorite, and subscribe for more. I'm Chase Clover, signing off.